Hello, my name is Michael Merritt. I am a nephew of Russell Merritt, or actually, I think a first cousin once removed. Um, I came up with this video series of interviews as a result of me being here at Pordenone. Throughout the course of the week, many people I would be introduced to. This is my first time here. Many people I'd be introduced to, and I'd say I'm as a relative of Russell's, and they would immediately launch into a short, brief anecdote of how they knew him, how he influenced their lives, how he made them laugh or mentored them, or anything of that sort. And so I realize we should really be capturing this. We should be capturing it on film and give everybody a short way to remember him however they saw fit. And thanks to the help of the Giornate staff, they were able to provide a camera and lights and set me up and be able to do this. Um, the format was similar to for every person. I didn't want it to become an interview where I'd ask questions back and forth. I basically would just ask people their name and provide some memory of Russell, some insights into him as who he was and how he, affected the Giannati. And I think it's going well. It's interesting to see these stories, and especially as a family member, to hear parts about Russell that I never knew. So as each person speaks, it's a learning experience for me, and I hope it will be one for you too. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I very much appreciate this. What we're doing is a interview of just how you know Russell and what is your relationship to him. So if you could please start by saying your full name and then how you know him and what is a good memory or story of him that you can share with us, please. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Stephanie Benz, and I'm a freelance film preservationist now. And I basically owe this to Russell in a way. Since when I was at university, I was doing some stuff on Griffith, and there was the Griffith project for which he's contributed also, the book series. And I've heard about Pordenone. I never could come, and but we bought, my now husband Andy and I, we bought the Griffith Project books. And when I was doing some research, we looked in our film collection of 8mm at that time, uh, which titles I could show at university, do a project on. And we, at one point, we acquired about 100 films from a collection. And then I looked at the titles and um, yeah, selected some, got through the books, and at some point, um, well, um, uh, so I looked at this title, The Little Teas, and we thought, oh yeah, we've seen it in the Griffith Project, and it's on our shelf. And then we checked the article, which was written by Russell, and it said this is a lost film.
Wow.
And so we contacted Russell, thinking, ah, this can't be, this must be some just, oh yeah, it has appeared in the meantime or whatever. And he said, you absolutely made my day. You found a lost Griffith biograph.
Wow. Hmm.
So I'm going to Pordenone next week. I'll talk to Paolo Cacchiosai, uh, who did the Griffith project. And so he got back to us, Paolo got back to us, and we got invited for the next year, for 2008, to come to Pordenone. And we sent the film to the Cineteca del Friuli. They preserved it. And actually, Russell and Karen paid for a 35mm blow up made from our 8mm print, which was then screened in an evening program here at the Verdi Theater. And that was just an amazing experience to get into this whole film festival world. And then when I met all the people here, I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I actually want to work with. And it took me a few years, a few internships. Life happened, but then I finally applied for the Selznick School of Film Preservation, got in 2019. And yeah, now I'm a freelance film preservationist. And so in a way, I owe it to Russell. And yeah, that's it was always beautiful to meet him here every year. Just seeing him, hugging him, him always asking how I am, and since he has come that way with us since 2008, at some point he asked, "Well, when are you going to get married?" Still no news. And 2 years ago, Andy and I finally got married. And so when I saw him then, Russell was like, every time I met him on the somewhere in the hallway or so, he would like, "Show me your ring, show me your ring." So
That's great. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for sharing those stories and how he impacted you. I very much appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you.
thank you.
Well, my name's John Stone. I live in Arlington, Virginia, and I've been collecting film since 1965. And I met Russell at David Shepard's Los Angeles apartment, and we've been crossing paths ever since. Russell was a pretty unforgettable guy. He had a wicked sense of humor, and he had a love of bad jokes, almost as great as my own. So my most fond memories of him were dueling with bad jokes and swapping political stories. And I was born in Washington, D.C., grew up there, around there all my life. And the industry in Washington, D.C. is politics. And if you read the papers and grow up in there, you get to see the side of politics that they don't put in the newspapers or say in speeches. And Russell had this treasure trove of local political stories from Oakland, California, which I had to admit was pretty wild. But then we started dueling about who had the most impressively, outrageously phony politicians. And I usually beat him every year, but it's kind of unfair because I live in Washington, D.C. But we had a category who was our favorite local politician and our favorite national politician. And I generally beat him out because my favorite local politician was Marion Barry, the incredibly disgraced 5-time mayor of Washington, D.C. And my favorite national politician was Ted Kennedy.
Okay.
And he agreed that these were the two most outrageously entertaining political figures over the longest period of time. And every time I'd see him here, I'd tell him something and say, "Oh, you conservative." I said, "No, no, Russell, don't forget, I'm only in it for the entertainment value." And he says, "Yeah, you're right. Go to it."
That's him.
But yeah, he was. I'm an old man. Okay. Uh, these I use some of the terminology I grew up with. He was what was known when I was young as a sweet guy. It didn't have any other implications. He had
Right.
a wonderful nature. Oh, I also want to say he only when I was around, when we would talk and I'd see him talking to other people, he only showed real affection and respect for his wife. And you really got the impression that there was a nice bond there. He wasn't a skirt chaser or anything. I mean, he liked a pretty girl walking down the street just as much as anybody. But yeah, he was solid. It was a pleasure and a bit of a privilege to know him over the years. And that's he he affected a lot of people a lot of ways, especially in film. Well, with us, it wasn't outside film. That has something to do with it. But he was just a delightful guy to know, and whenever you saw him, you just felt better, and there's not too many of those guys around anymore. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right.
Well, John, thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
sharing that with
I don't
us.
know what the others said, but I did want that aspect of Russell and his backstage maneuverings to get on the record.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, you can never talk for more than 2 or 3 minutes with him or about him without chuckling and getting a smile on your face, and
That is true.
that's that counts for something.
It
You know?
does. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Sure, you bet.
If first of all, I'd like you to state your full name, please,
David Latofsky from
And-
Philadelphia.
from Philadelphia. And then please tell us a story or some connection you have with Russell, a memory, anything. And you
Yeah.
mentioned a picture earlier,
Yeah.
so I'll let you talk as you choose.
Yeah, Russell did a very wonderful remembrance of David Shepard here, sort of memorial service. And afterwards, I realized I had associations with David Shepard. I used to see him every year at Cinefest, and he knew my cousin. Anyway, the one thing that occurred to me is that I have a photo of David Shepard wearing a Black Hawk t-shirt, which is not a commercial item. It was my friend Jay Schwartz who came to the convention, and he made the t-shirt. And
If you can hold it up, I'll see if this works on the camera.
I can make it bigger.
I think we got it because I have it on auto zoom. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was excited to show him the picture since he was so close to David. I didn't really know Russell that well at all. But of course I never got around to sending it to him, but he did give, I think I did show him the picture,
Okay.
because, it's on the phone, it's everywhere. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so that was really my only encounter.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And
Yeah, it's not, I mean, he spoke so wonderfully of David Shepard, and David Shepard is so important
right.
to everybody that's here. And, I just wanted to show him a picture of David Shepard. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm JB Kaufman, and I could talk all day about Russell, but I promise I won't. I owe many things to Russell. I owe a lot to Russell, and not least of which is having a connection with the Giornate in the first place. It was thanks to Russell that I even was able to come here the first time at all. Because he was already a regular attendee at the festival. But then we wrote a book together, and I don't know what he said to them, but he convinced them that I was somebody who really could contribute something. And as a result, when I came here for the first time, Russell's recommendation was enough to secure me a place here. And so I've just tried not to ruin that first impression or disillusion anybody ever since then. He made a tremendous contribution to the festival, and because of his great knowledge of the field. But the thing is that Russell handled that the way he handled everything, with a combination of intellectual rigor and childlike enthusiasm. So he did outstanding work, and he made an outstanding contribution, but it never seemed like work because he was clearly enjoying it so much all the time. I remember running into him once here at the festival, and he said, this is a great festival, but the thing is, these movies keep getting in the way of my social calendar. But then he would say a thing like that, and then he would turn around and turn in some brilliant program note or some piece of writing that was just that would just make the event. Um, and and that was pretty much the way he tended to handle everything. I think that we can we can all learn a lot. I know I could learn a lot from him about just how to live, because he was always uh, uh, making everything else better and inspiring people to be their best. And I think in that sense, among others, I think he's still with us because nobody can take Russell's place. But I think he inspires all of us to be the best that we can be at whatever we do. So, uh, so here's to Russell and in his connections with the world of film at large and the Giornate del Cinema Muto in particular. Uh, he he established something that I think can never be taken away.
And then please tell us anything you know about Russell or how you came to know him or any
Absolutely.
share a story with us.
My name is Tracy Gossel, and I'm the head of Film Preservation Society based out of Los Angeles, California. I first met Russell almost half a century ago. It was in January of 1975. I was a freshman at the University of Wisconsin, and to take Russell's film course, you had to be a junior or get special permission. So I braved the hallways of the film department at Madison and had no idea who Russell was or what he looked like. I only knew his room number. And as I approached the room, there was this ageless sprite at the door talking with some other academic, and he was trying to remember a song that had been in Guys and Dolls, but was not in the movie, but was in the musical play. And I happened to know it, so I said the answer. And he looked over and noticed me and welcomed me into his office. I walked in and uh, sat down with him, and immediately it was as if we'd known each other for 50 years. He realized that I knew who D.W. Griffith was and that everybody shared the love of the New York Cat. He was a little bit scathing about Lillian Gish, but was warm and effusive of Mary Pickford, and within a matter of about 20 seconds, gave me the priestly Domine, Domine, yes, you may take my class. And taking his class was tremendous fun because Russell would never look up at the classroom. He would pace back and forth on the stage, talking to the floor. And these wonderful, brilliant, witty things came out of his mouth. But he once confided that he knew if he was ever to look up at the audience, that immediately he would see everybody there holding rocks or rotten tomatoes to throw at him, which of course we wouldn't have. We were entranced by every word he had to say. I've just never heard someone uh, sounds terrible to say spew forth, but erupt with both knowledge and wit, the way Russell did. And I went off and graduated and did not go into film. I went into medicine. So it was not until 1997 that I encountered Russell again here at the Giornate when they were beginning the Griffith Project, and Russell's seminal and important research work on D.W. Griffith is known to all film scholars. And it was as if a day had not passed. He was polite enough to pretend that he remembered me, which of course he couldn't have. He had so many students and so many people. But it mattered not. We went out to dinner together, and I heard about his youth, his misspent youth, writing for magazines and enjoying Sherlock Holmes and dealing with a sister who lived in the Deep South and was uh, of a different mindset to Russell. I learned everything one would ever want to know about Russell, and left enjoying it tremendously, but wondering about Karen.
Mhm.
The woman never got a word in edgewise. Um, uh, and so Russell has, from that moment on, been part of my life. We, I believe, introduced him to the Harry Potter books, and from that point forward, whatever Christmas gift we would get would be akin to what the Dursleys had sent Harry Potter for Christmas. So one year, I think we got a used tissue, you know, it, just, you know, a hanger, you know, a metal hanger. Thank you. But the last Christmas, he gave me and apparently many others anime wong quarters. And, you know, that still sits on my desk. I have not spent it. Every time I look at it, I think of Russell. And I can't believe he is gone, because Russell was to me, and always will be to me, absolutely ageless. He was the same in 1975 as he was in 2020. The man did not age. He was always in this netherland of badly brilliant academic, absent-minded professor, and God bless him. I I'll miss him, but I'm looking forward to getting to know Karen a lot better.
Sure.
That's it. That's what I have to say about Russell.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Jay Weisberg. I'm the director of the Pordenone Silent Film Festival. I got the job because David Robinson thought that I was the right person for it, but I did not come from an academic background or from an archive background. And so when you're kind of in that limbo period, put into a festival like this one, which is both very strongly academic and archival, you can be seen as an outsider. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but it also made me feel insecure in some ways, and the sense that I had to sort of struggle to be accepted. Russell and Karen immediately embraced me and took me to heart, I would say. Treated me as an equal, and maybe feel even more that I was a part of this particular community, which is so important to all of us. Mm-hmm. And that warmth and that generosity for me was the stamp of the man throughout the short time that I knew him. So I would say, although I had seen him for years and years, because I've been coming to the Giornate since 2001, but I was that sort of shy, person who wasn't putting my hand out to introduce myself to everybody. But he was somebody who, from the Griffith Project onwards, I realized this is a scholar who has a very rare combination of openness and a desire to collaborate and a desire to share in an extremely generous manner. So that was, I guess, my first sensation with Russell, and ever since then. So it was really once I became director 8 years ago that we developed what I would call an active friendship, and just I was so grateful for his I mean, the word generosity keeps coming back, and warmth, and also at the sorry, at this point I'm really tired.
Say,
At the tribute, sorry, that was
Okay.
streamed. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the word. Haha.
Mm.
At the tribute that was streamed, those are the words that kept on coming back too. People were talking about his smile, his laughter, his desire to collaborate. I learned early on about his fascination with detectives, the Baker Street Society, how important that was for him, and that was also. I mean, we already knew each other a little bit because years ago I had done a program for Pordenone on British detectives in silent cinema. So Russell had advised me a little bit, but again, I felt very insecure,
Right.
basically,
Mhm.
especially in connection to a man who had already established himself in such a wonderful way and who was already so beloved by the Giornate. But all of those sort of memories sort of pile up one on top of each other. Also, the first time I got to San Francisco, for the San Francisco Silent Film Festival, and Russell and Karen's warmth there. We would meet in Bologna, we would meet here, even at breakfast time, which is the time that I never want to meet anybody. But with Russell, somehow it was fine.
Yes. Mhm.
Because you knew it wasn't going to be pressurized. You knew it was somebody who was going to be enthusiastic and bubbly and just the right amount. You know, you don't want somebody too bubbly at breakfast either. He
Mimosas.
pardon?
Mimosas. Sorry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He wanted, his curiosity was boundless. He wanted to help. He wanted to communicate. And I could only imagine what a wonderful professor he was, and how many people he inspired
Mhm.
as his students, but also for those of us who were collaborating on a non-student level, to share the reasons why we're in this field, which is to show these films, to talk about them, to screen them, to learn more about them, to talk about how they affect us too. I think that Russell was really wonderful in that. This is a man who was studying Griffith and also Walt Disney. You know, we have to remember that for most of the people in this field, I would say, no matter how serious and academic they are, we all still come to it from a passion that probably grew from childhood.
Mhm.
Where you also want to have fun with what you're doing. You want to reconnect with what kindled that love for this art form. And I think Russell did that all the time.
Mhm.
You always sense that no matter how serious it was and how scholarly it was, it came from a place of passion and a place of enjoyment. And it's really important never to forget that. And he just exuded that on all levels, both in his writing and especially in his persona. So, although there were times, because he and Karen always loved to do the excursions, I would think, really, you're going to miss that film, you're going to miss that film. But actually, that was a good thing because he was thinking about life
Right. Mhm.
and balancing life and cinema. And maybe too many times we tend to forget that we need to be doing that, and that's what we should be doing that.
Mhm.
And it's often only too late that we realize that we should have been doing it. And the fact that he knew, I think, is also a really good lesson for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, um, well, thank you for putting me on the tape. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what everybody has had to say. But I've offered to say how I met Russell because it had something to do with the movies. We were graduate students at Harvard. We were both in the English department, and that we had had classes together. We really had never registered each other. So I was a medievalist, and the student film show, there was going to be a show of student films, and one of them was labeled Beowulf.
So as a medievalist, I had to see how a student film showed us Beowulf. The attraction for Russell was he had been in various ways involved in film societies, and he had a film society that he was running at Harvard. So again, it was a sort of obvious place for him to come. So I went with one of my friends who was a medievalist who also wanted to see a student film about Beowulf. And he went with a friend of his who was also a medievalist in the English department, Peter Schrader. So we saw the films, and the notable part of Beowulf was when he was driving a VW with a horned hat on his head down Storrow Drive beside the river in Cambridge. So it was what you might call a very loose interpretation. In any case, we all encountered one another after the movie was over, and Peter and my companion, Ann Middleton, knew each other, so they sort of accosted each other and dragged us along. And so Russell and I were introduced to each other. And I should probably say our first date was to a movie, or maybe not. I think we can actually end it there. That's a separate story.
Okay. You like that?
Okay, so my name is Pamela Hutchinson,
Okay.
and I knew of Russell before I met him because he's such a presence at Pordenone and at other silent film festivals, and always saw him being this very welcoming, lovely chap. I've been coming to the Pordenone Silent Film Festival since 2012, which by the standards of Russell and many people here is no time at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, in many ways I'm still a newbie, and I was definitely still quite a newbie when Russell and I served on a jury here together. We were on a project together, and I was the youngest, newest person in the jury, and Russell really went out of his way to make sure I was okay, make sure I always had the best seat for any screening, even if somebody thought that seat should probably go to someone who looked a lot more important than me. And he made me laugh every day that we were talking about the films, and he was always such a joyous, welcoming person. And as far as he was concerned, there was sort of seemed to be no difference between me and this person who'd only just started going to Pordenone and people who were veterans of decades here. He always had something fascinating to tell me, and he always had some kindness to share. And I really, really remember him very fondly. It's really hard to be here and not see Russell. He seems so integral to what makes a festival like this, which is kind of conceived intellectually, makes it into a friendly, welcoming, celebratory experience. And that's what I think about when I think about Russell, and I was so lucky to get to know him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Well, thank
Hello, I'm Frank DeBell, and I'm the other half of Jay
Okay.
Weisberg here at the Pordenone Festival. Oh, Russell, calm and powerful and gentle and critical and analytical. And we didn't talk so much about film because I know more about the history of art than film, but we did talk about art a lot, and it was always to the point, and it was always enthusiastic, and it was always about how art is a sort of reconstruction of the universe, really, and how we have to live with it, but we have to investigate it as well, and we have to share it, and it's all the things that a good film festival does. And it's odd, you know, when people go and you only see them once a year, you still think they're there. So I'm kind of looking around the theatre for him. And Karen, this is for you. We miss him terribly. But it was so good to see you this year. And the last conversation I think we had was about that political correctness business in, if I'm not mistaken, the George Washington High School or college or whatever it was. And how you had to fight to get the right people, the board, to
to backtrack on some, over politically correct action, which was then voted away. But that was part of your engagement, Russell. Still speaking to you. Well, you are alive. You're alive in our minds. And all the other cliches one says, but it's true.
Mhm.
And so that's all I can think of saying in just a minute. But really, how we need art desperately, and in all its forms. So thank you. I'm thinking with gratitude of what Russell has done and showed us, and those beliefs and principles, and we keep going, and that's what keeps us going. Thank you.